We all know about the easy meta picks like Orisa, Bastion, and Baptiste, but there are still some heroes that can still succeed, but with way more effort and hard work. Here are the top 10 hardest heroes to main right now, and with the oppressive spam meta, they're struggling for sure. If you want to get better at these heroes to play to their strengths and prepare for when they're more favorable, use the link in the description to get access to a Game Leap membership. There are tons of detailed guides from a multitude of different experts to help you master your favorite heroes. During the old double shield meta in Overwatch 1, I already started preparing my Winston way before it was a viable pick, just to switch things up. So check out the site to find your new main and learn them to the fullest. Before we start, this list is based off of characters that seriously struggle to get value, but with enough hard work can actually pull off wins and can even be optimal in certain situations. So heroes like Reaper and Roadhog really don't count, since it's almost impossible to consistently get good results even if you play them perfectly. Hopefully that changes with the upcoming Roadhog reworks, but until then, let's get started. So right off the bat with number 10, which goes to the tried and true Tracer. She barely makes the list, since while all of her counters have been buffed, she can still be extremely effective if you've mastered her. Skirmishing on the side of the fight, poking and looking for duels, all while building up to the critical pulse bomb makes her a force to be reckoned with. But it's also a rough ordeal when there's so many abilities that can counter the pulse bomb. Even though it charges quickly, trading an ultimate ability for just a cooldown is always a downer. Her damage is good, and mobility is always a plus in Overwatch. So on many maps, she will have flank routes to harass the backline. But unfortunately, the more popular supports in the current patch have a very favorable matchup into her, especially the newest support, Larry. Larry the cable guy can easily 2-tap Tracer, and even has a structure that the Tracer has to deal with before she can start working the backline, similar to how Torbjorn's turret can really ruin her day. Next up, number 9 goes to Brigitte. She's had her fair share of good times and bad times, mostly good if you consider her release. And right now, she's definitely a good support for pocketing dive heroes like Tracer and Genji. And unlike Tracer, Genji does have a nice niche in the meta, but her other two strengths, effective poke heal and protecting her other support, are all outdone by other heroes. Larry's pylon alone does Brig's poke heal way better, and both she and Baptiste are good enough at surviving on their own. Brig definitely struggles in the more extreme spam metas, but as a support, she still has a strong ultimate and can live for a long time. Overhealth always has benefits for your team, and a stun on any non-tank is always going to find good value. The key to making her work is focusing brutally on staying alive. Her 20-meter Inspire radius will do great work if you keep it going. And even if most supports are good at surviving themselves, if you can stay alive for the entire fight, so can your other support. Now on to number 8. Mei, who has definitely been suffering for a while now. Even in the top Brawl comps, she's lost her spot to Symmetra and Bastion, who can both mow down her wall in no time at all. Blizzard is already looking to rework her Deep Chill passive only helping her to tilt the enemy tank to switch to Orisa if they're not playing her already. But compared to other utility-based DPS, her Icicles can still do some hefty damage at range, and she's actually one of the best heroes to contest payload with, using her wall and ice block to sustain a long fight on the cart, while the rest of the team can use the time to get angles or set up ultimates. Her Blizzard may be really counterable, but when played defensively, first taking the objective, then defending it against attackers, makes it a lot more effective and harder to cleanse. Even though some of the worst ultimates in the game are easily kiteable or cleansed, placing them on the objective makes them a lot more valuable, especially during overtime or when the point is about to be captured or flipped. Number 7 goes to Sombra, another utility-based DPS. She has a lot of potential and a high skill ceiling, able to do a lot with precise planning and setup. And if your team is playing a dive comp, ready to follow up and go hyper aggressive on your hack target, you can actually beat most Metaslave spam comps quite easily. Her EMP, although its charge rate has been nerfed, can still consistently win fights when timed right. But it needs to be stressed that without teamwork or even communication, she only works as a counter, sitting defensively and hacking any divers or flankers who want to push. You basically need to use your mic to make her work properly. Getting her to work without communication and teamwork means you're gonna have to be one-clipping supports after hacking them, which, while possible, requires a lot of skill. In a way, it's nice that you can make Sombra work either by insane teamwork or by insane aim, but there are way better alternatives that get more value out of both without requiring insane skills. And now for number 6, we have the crowd favorite, Reinhardt. Reinhardt is an enigma, where he has the potential to be really effective but simply gets hard countered by everything right now. He can't approach Orisa, Bastion melts him, Baptiste can hard kite him, and forget about having a fun game without a Lucio. Players like LH Cloudy still play him to good success, but it needs to be stressed that without his level of experience, Reinhardt is almost always a liability to his team. The win condition that Reinhardt brings to his team is a strong shield, his Earth Shatter stun utility, and good point presence, being a perfect target to pocket that becomes really hard to dislodge. Unfortunately, his damage potential is so low that his shatter comes rarely, and he's often unable to pressure people away from space, only being able to hold it. With a strong team on a favorable map, he can definitely be a good pick, and playing attention to your favor can mean threatening the backline with charge kills or baiting aggression onto himself while the rest of his team can run free. He's still a really difficult hero to pick up out of the blue because of his finite shield amount compared to Orisa's Javelin Spin or D.Va's defense matrix, so ready your mental if you want to try him out. Halfway through, at number 5 is Ramattra, who's only slightly worse than Reinhardt. He has similar struggles, being pushed away by Orisa and by proxy being unable to threaten backline with his punches, but his ranged pressure and his Omnic form can be really effective with some effort placed into aiming it. At a very high level, Ram players focus on using their Omnic form to lay down damage while approaching the fight, baiting themselves, then using their Nemesis form to survive and then punish attackers. And while this playstyle is a bit extreme, you can definitely focus on getting more value out of the staff instead of running straight in for the punches. Unlike Reinhardt, he's not good at holding the point for a long time, but his ultimate is still great for zoning the point, particularly in King of the Hill after you forced cooldowns from the Orisa. But when his normal Nemesis form is so easily managed by damage heroes, his ultimate faces the same issue. Now for number 4, our second support on the list, Moira. Every previous hero on the list has at least some utility that they can use to help their team in a unique way, but Moira simply has nothing to offer to her team that the other supports can't as well, and most of the time even better. Moira can heal a lot and survive, but that's really it. In fact, when you focus more on trying to damage instead of heal, the one thing Moira can do to switch things up, you'll often fall behind in healing your frontline, since the damage being traded in this meta is pretty immense. Even Brig has her Boop utility that can at least help the frontline get more space, but Moira has always suffered from her low team value. The one thing preventing her from being lower on the list is that she's still a strong healer, and with Lucio, she does fit in well with most compositions, definitely not beating anyone out in sustain, but still having a solid win condition and pushing really hard, using Coalescence and Lucio Speed Boost. It's a sad day for Winston gang everywhere, as Winston is number 3 on the list, being almost impossible to play against the meta staple Bastion. I can speak from personal experience that Winston can work, but it requires the enemy team to simply not consider playing Bastion at all. The fact that such a good character completely shuts down not only Winston's neutral, but his ultimate as well, makes him really difficult to play. And even if the form can be forced out and then engaged on, Bastion's health pool makes him a completely unviable target for Winston, leaving him to keep looking for grenades and still having solid damage to lay down on the Winston while he engages. Building Primal and going for backline is the one thing he can do to win for his team, but every strong support right now can easily shrug off the engage, having a Pylon, a Lamp, a Suzu, and almost every conceivable pocketing ability to help peel off the Primal. On top of that, most of the newer heroes in the game have good ways to escape Winston's engage and then punish him for it. Jungle Queen being a perfect soft counter with her knife and shotgun, and Sojourn, Kiriko, and Larry being crazy hard to pin down. But number 2 is even harder to pull off, even with the Mercy helping you out. Pharah is the hardest DPS to play right now that can still somehow get value by hitting almost every direct hit. Just Larry has made her impossible to consistently play the game, and even Bastion's recon form gives her a lot of trouble. Her barrage has always been kind of a suicide mission, and now it's really the only time that she can get consistent results from her efforts. Pharah has always been a difficult pick without a Mercy, and now that not only has Mercy been nerfed, but hit scans in both the damage and support categories are seeing constant play. She struggles to even engage the fight without dying. It might be time for her to try just walking on the floor with her team, since taking to the skies is just asking to be shot down like a clay pigeon. Even though her spammy playstyle should fit right in with the rest of the meta comps, she's simply too slow, and also can't really accelerate her gameplay to go look for picks towards the middle of the fight. She's much harder to hard pocket like Bastion, and she has nowhere close to as big of a power spike as Bastion's turret form. Luckily, there are still a few maps where Pharah is truly still viable, especially Ilios, or even some maps on Lijiang Tower, but unfortunately, she's a unique hero and that she only needs one single counter on the enemy team to really start struggling hard. For the number 1 spot, he's been almost completely abandoned even by his diehard mains. It's Wrecking Ball, who has a lot of pressure on him as the only tank on the team. Although I mentioned earlier that Roadhog doesn't count for this list, even he can counter half the tank roster and lay down effective damage. Ball has always been the worst tank at frontlining, and its engages can all get peeled off really easily. And even when you prepare a perfect engage, there's nothing stopping the enemy supports from seeking you out and dueling you, since it's a massive disadvantage to not have a tank that can frontline, ready to defend if necessary. Ball is too much of a hard dive character that can't even do his job as well as Doomfist, D.Va, or even Winston can, with no utility to cut off the crazy peel that can even out-heal your damage twofold. Even the similarly tough heroes above in the list still have the option to counter other heroes, Ball being among them. And of course, just as Bastion counters other tanks, he definitely melts through Ball in no time at all. Even Ball's changes over the past couple months have all been about helping him engage more often, but when his engages are so bad and easily counterable, it doesn't matter if he can engage more often when he's gonna die every time he goes for it in the first place. His Minefield and Primary Fire are still not the worst in the game, but the rest of his kit, he really struggles, and that's what actually makes him good when he has been strong in the past. That's it for this list. Let me know in the comments if you have heroes that you main that are almost impossible to run in this meta, but look forward to Season 7 to switch things up and make the game a lot more fun for everyone. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.